Hi YouTube, my name is Christopher Lachey of C.W. Lachey Law. I'm an attorney here in North Carolina, and what you're about to watch is a presentation done at a town hall on Second Amendment rights in North Carolina, as well as certain federal laws. Escalation of force. Escalation of force is something that happens very quickly. You've heard about someone attacking someone with a bottle, and then another person attacks with a knife, and then bang, someone gets shot and dead. They're killed. You have to match force in North Carolina. North Carolina is a no requirement to retreat. You can stand your ground in North Carolina, but you have to match force. There are some elements that the court considers when determining whether someone is going to be charged with manslaughter or self-defense. Hey, if you get into a scuffle and you shoot your attacker, they're dead, and it's ruled as self-defense, congratulations, because you're going to get a form that says that the victim's family cannot bring any civil claims against you and no criminal claims will be brought against you. It's very similar to the O.J. Simpson case. So even though O.J. Simpson was found not guilty of murder on 2 counts, because it's a lower burden of proof, he was sued for wrongful death. Well, if you're not convicted, if you're found not guilty, if it's found to be self-defense here in North Carolina, then you are absolved of a civil action against you by the victim's family. And that's important because that's something that a lot of people fear, saying, look, it's bad enough that I'm gonna get in a scuffle, I'm gonna shoot somebody. Taking another person's life is bad enough. And then having to go through litigation after litigation, appeals, mistrials, it goes on for years and it seems like it's never ending, and it's stressful and it tears families apart. Knowing that North Carolina will back you up on this, when it's ruled as self-defense, you will not be required, or you will not be brought into court for wrongful death. You will not have to pay out to victim's family. But it is a long, hard-fought battle to do that. Because if you do get into a fight and someone is shot, let's say it's at your house, immediately law enforcement does not know what firearm was used in the shooting. Doesn't matter if I say, no, it was this one. You can see they will go into your house and they will seize every firearm you have. I'll say that one more time. They will seize every firearm you have until the investigation is over with. And you're going to jail. If it happens late on a Friday, or if it's over the weekend, you're there for the weekend. You're not going to see a magistrate for about 48 hours before your release. You're going to jail, and you have a lot to think about. But the most important thing that you can do when it happens, when you have shot someone, when law enforcement shows up, and they will show up, you just tell them that you want to talk to your attorney, that you unequivocally are invoking your right to remain silent, and that you want to talk to your attorney. I'll give you an example of what you don't want to say. Cop shows up, 1 man is dead, you're standing there. It doesn't matter if you're bleeding. You have a gun in your hand. Officer tells you to put the gun down, you put the gun down, you comply with everything the officer says, and you say, officer, I'm so sorry that you had to come out and see this. He attacked me and I thought I was going to die. He was hitting my head into the concrete. I'm bleeding and everything is really, I'm dizzy and I feel so sick. Can I sit down? When you have your trial, the prosecutor's going to ask that officer, when you arrived on scene, what were the first words out of the defendant's mouth? He looked at me and said, I'm sorry. Everything you say can and will be used against you. See how I took that one saying out of context? It happens all the time. And it can happen to you as well. So I'm not trying to scare everybody, but this is really serious stuff. When you're concerned about escalation of force, the court doesn't look to one single element. The court will look at the totality of the circumstances. I'm a healthy young male, so I probably can defend myself pretty well fairly from someone else that's just like me. But if someone is much larger than me, someone that's 6.5 feet tall, 7 feet tall, a giant of a person, 300 pounds of muscle, someone that has a reputation for violent behavior, very similar to the Michael Brown situation. The officer was very small, Michael Brown was huge. He knew that a strong-arm robbery was in progress. Size of the attacker, penchant for violence, or a reputation for violence in the community. These are things that the court weighs in when they determine whether deadly force was justified. There was a video released during the Charlotte riots of Appella in a parking garage. I think it was a parking garage in downtown Charlotte, attacked by a group of people. That's another element, multiple attackers. Realistically, you can't be expected to be one person and fight off 5 or 6 people like some sort of action movie. It doesn't work that way. Just 2 people is enough. Even if you have excellent training, 2 people can overpower just about the best trained person out there. So another element, multiple attackers. Reputation for behavior, size of the attacker. It doesn't matter if the attacker has a weapon. They don't have to have a weapon for deadly force to be justified. In the Trayvon Martin shooting, Zimmerman, assuming that Trayvon Martin did not have a firearm in that situation, if he hadn't taken the firearm or tried to take the firearm for Zimmerman, Zimmerman was still justified in his shooting because his head was being repeatedly bashed into cement. The threat of death or serious bodily injury, having your head repeatedly bashed into cement, the court found is sufficient to justify deadly force. After just a few seconds of being strangled, you might black out. Who knows what will happen? The terrible maiming of a person through choking, asphyxiation. The court may find that that is also an appropriate time for escalation of force. Something that is unsettling to people, especially here in North Carolina. We love our animals, we love our horses, we love our dogs, our cats. They're property. They're property. And you can only use deadly force to defend yourself or others if that other person would be justified in defending them, in using deadly force. I'm not saying someone's breaking into your house, but if you're walking your dog and someone kills your dog, you can't kill them. If someone goes into your barn and you're not there, no one else is there, you just hear gunshots coming from your barn and they're shooting the horses in your barn, as sad as it is, that is not a situation where deadly force is appropriate. A horse is a horse. I don't mean to make a pun. When I said defense of others gives you the right to the same level of force the victim is allowed to use to defend himself, you have to be careful. Because if you didn't see how the confrontation started, you could be going to prison for murder. North Carolina had a situation a little while ago, probably 5-6 years ago actually, and there was what's called a running gun fight. A running gun fight is not a shootout, it's when one person is running away from another and they're both shooting at each other. It's a running gun fight. A person rolled up on the scene, saw one person running away shooting at another person. They had no idea how this started, and they shot the person that was pursuing. That was an undercover cop, plainclothes officer. They went to jail for murder. In a situation where a law enforcement had a conflict with a person at a gun show, it was also North Carolina, similar situation occurred where someone did not know how the fight began, got involved, and ended up shooting an innocent party. In that situation, the cop was the aggressor, but the vendor was the innocent party, and the vendor was killed. Even though you think that you're rescuing them, you could go to prison for the rest of your life. If you didn't see the incident take place, or you don't know all the parties involved, don't get involved. That's the best advice I can give you about that. If they're not blood, or if you don't treat them like blood, it can't be your fight. Call the police, that's what we pay them for. That's the best thing I can suggest for you. I know it's scary. Even having a firearm myself, if I see a conflict is occurring, if there's an active shooter situation, I'm going to grab my family and I'm going to draw my firearm and I'm going to back away from the situation. I'm not going to engage an active shooter like that. I might not know what led to those events. I don't want to be involved in firing on an officer that is plainclothes. I have no idea what led to that moment. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, like and subscribe. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. You can also get my contact information in the description below. My firm is also on Facebook. There are many more video talks to come in the future, so stay tuned.